So, after a really long run, Game of Thrones, one of the TV's most successful shows, has come to an end. In this video, I would like to discuss everything that I have liked and have been utterly disappointed about the show. I will share my opinions about the ending and also share my honest thoughts about where the show has headed through since the last few seasons. So definitely watch it till the end. Hello guys, my name is Shubhodip Mondal. I'm an independent filmmaker and also an equally passionate guitarist. On this channel, I upload short films, music videos, video editing tutorials and guitar tutorials as well. So if you're new here and are interested in any of these topics, then please consider subscribing by clicking on the big red subscribe button down there, and also click the bell icon next to it to turn on notifications so that you don't miss any update whenever I upload a new video. And before moving on with the video, let me tell you, if you haven't finished watching the entire show yet, then now is the time to stop watching this video, because obviously in this video I'm going to spoil everything for you. So getting all those things out of the way, let's get started with the video. So I watched Chris Tuckman's review and he has summed up everything that I have felt about this season almost perfectly. And I think it is due to the fact that I have also started watching the show in the previous month and binged all the 7 seasons in just 2 weeks. So I had a very different experience watching the entire show in a single, uninterrupted flow and without having to wait for years in between seasons. Having said that, I would like to discuss about the various aspects of the show one by one. First of all, let's talk about the writing part and all the controversies that's going on surrounding it. So everyone is saying that D&D's writing is not up to the mark and does not match the level of George Martin, and the quality of writing has consistently gone down throughout the last 3 seasons, and it is very much evident. You can just feel it. When I was watching the show, I didn't know that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, the showrunners and the writers of the TV series, did not have the original source material for the last 3 seasons from George R.R. Martin, because he hasn't finished the last 2 books yet. But when the show entered the 6th and the 7th season, I felt that the quality of the writing has dropped noticeably. So it's not me being biased towards George Martin's writing just to criticize D&D, but I genuinely felt it. And later, when I checked the info, then I understood why it felt so. And I'm not talking about the storytelling part. The story was moving fine. It had all the shock values and everything, but there were moments where you would expect some witty and meaningful dialogues from the most clever characters of the show, like Tyrion and Varys, but it never delivered a single noteworthy or memorable dialogues, which it used to do on the previous seasons. So yeah, I think the writing is definitely not up to the mark in the last few seasons, and that is a very important reason the climax has received so much mixed reactions. Although I'm not saying that D&D's writing is absolutely garbage, I just think that it's not up to the mark that the show has established for itself with its long runtime. So the change in the quality of writing creates somewhat of a disconnection between the audience and the characters. After watching these characters talk in a certain way for so many episodes, you kind of start to expect a certain kind of reactions from them, but in the last 3 seasons, it fails to deliver those in most of the cases. I have noticed this mostly in Tyrion's case. I just loved that character since the beginning, but in the last 3 seasons, I constantly had to force myself to like the character and to still believe in him. You can feel what I'm saying in the season 8's episode 4, just before Missandei's death. He just can't convince Cersei, neither he can convince you. Not anymore. And that's a shame. You can feel that it's the writer's inability to put something more powerful on Tyrion's mouth. I would have loved the same outcome the same way, and I'm fine with Missandei's death if that is the story. I'm just not satisfied with what Tyrion had to say just before that moment. He ignored Qyburn and walks past him to talk directly to Cersei. All that is cool, but what he actually says is not. It feels shallow, thanks to D&D's writing skills. And one more reason for this could be the fact that they had chosen to go with lesser episodes, and that's why they tried to rely on short talks. But in most of the cases, it's not that intellectual as it should have been, and it mostly fails to give the story any direction. So you just keep watching whatever is happening on the screen in the name of subverting expectations. In the same context, if I talk about Tyrion's character arc, then after the end of the show, I don't know what to feel about him. If I think about his actions, or mostly stupidity, in the last few episodes and his actions after the death of Daenerys in the small council room, then it makes me want to hate him. And I absolutely hate the fact that I had to feel this way about him. Even he's the one who convinces Jon to murder Dany. So in my opinion, Tyrion's character arc is kind of inconclusive, and this just makes me sad.
Was it right? What I did?
What we did.
Next, I would like to talk about Cersei and Jaime's death. Well, with this one, I don't have that much of a problem as everyone else. Although it would have been great to see Daenerys and Cersei in a last face-to-face conversation, but it's okay. The showrunners didn't know how that would have turned, so they completely ignored the idea, just like making either of Dany or Jon sit on the Iron Throne. They removed the idea from the equation altogether because that's the safest conclusion. They simply avoided dividing the audience into Jon's squad and Dany's squad. And I think this was meant to be from the very beginning. So why am I satisfied with the death of Cersei? It's because to me, She was dead when she said,
Please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. I don't want to die.
that to me is the death of her pride, and that's more important than the actual death of her character. To hide the fact that she has broken down, she even added,
Not like this. Not like this.
that was pretty much satisfying for me after what she has already gone through in her walk of atonement. So I think she has already got everything she deserves. Her sons and daughter are dead before her, and everyone hates her. So that's enough. However, the death of them together in episode 5 was abrupt, but in the final episode, when Tyrion goes near the pile of bricks where they died and he realizes that Jaime tried to escape with her, but eventually they died together and Tyrion breaks down, that scene makes up for it. Now talking about Daenerys becoming the Mad Queen, I don't have any problem with that either. Even I have actually enjoyed and loved that transition. And as I have said earlier that I have binge watched the entire show in 2 weeks, I kind of understood the arc of her character and it didn't come to me as a surprise. If you rewatch the entire show, maybe you can also get what they are talking about, her character being foreshadowed from the very beginning. And now whether if I think foreshadowing is developing a character arc or not, then that would be a discussion for another video. And her taking the decision to burn down King's Landing created the opportunity of such cinematic visual treat on screen alone is justified of her to take that decision, just for that cinematic purpose. The Bells is shot splendidly by Fabian Wagner, one of my most favorite cinematographers, who has also shot the 2017 Hollywood movie Justice League. I have generally liked the episode 3, The Long Night, and the episode 5, The Bells, for its technical achievements. Both the episodes are very well directed, especially the Bells episode has set a new standard for TV shows. Left aside the story, with some hypnotizing music from Ramin Dvajade in the background, these 2 episodes are perfectly made. I have rewatched the Bells multiple times and every time I get goosebumps watching it. I just love the infinitely rising tension throughout the entire episode. If you watch the game revealed and the behind the scene videos on making of these episodes, then you will know how much hard work they have done. This is really commendable, you can't deny it. The rest of the episodes of this season feels very much like filler episodes. They have spent most of their budget and time on making these 2 episodes, The Long Night and The Bells. Now finally, let's talk about the last episode, the conclusion, the most controversial and the most hated episode ever. This episode is even directed by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss themselves. Well, what do I say? This is the only episode in the entire Game of Thrones series I'm utterly disappointed and disgusted with. This episode felt so much out of place. I have watched the entire series in 2 to 3 weeks and even I feel so disappointed. I can feel for you guys who are watching this show for a decade and has been waiting for the conclusion for so long only to witness this. It's this exact same thing that has plagued this whole season. It's not that I'm not fine with the conclusion, it's just that how they have arrived to this conclusion and failed miserably to tie every loose end together in a much more convincing way. This was supposed to be the grand finale which concludes everything, but this episode has raised more questions than answered. The same thing happened in episode 3 as well, when Arya comes out of nowhere and kills the Night King. I had no problem in Arya killing the Night King, but after such dramatic and beautifully shot war sequence between the living and the dead, they could have spent a little bit more to the actual death sequence of the Night King as well. But sadly, it was all show no-go. I think with the ending of Game of Thrones, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss have played a master role on all of us, and that can be further proved by these scenes.
Will you wear the crown? Will you lead the 7 kingdoms to the best of your abilities?
Why do you think I came all this way?
Really? What the fuck? So anyway, it's finally over. In my opinion, they could have added the conclusion in the episode 5 itself with some added scenes, and that would have been a much more memorable and epic ending. Although in the episode 6, there are some really good shots like this one. And this one. These are really some well-crafted shots, and on a second watch, the finale is a bit less disappointing. Every living character ultimately got what they ever wanted. Sansa becomes the queen in the north. Arya goes on to a greater adventure to find out what no one has ever known, and that is what's west of Westeros. Grey Worm finally becomes a king on his own right and goes to the Isle of Nath. Tyrion becomes the hand of the king, the job he does the best. Bronn gets everything he has ever wanted. Sam becomes the Grand Maester. Jon goes beyond the wall, where he always belonged. Maybe later on, he will become the new king beyond the wall. Who knows? And Bran the Broken. It all started because of him only, and eventually he becomes the king. Because he saw what he shouldn't have, the Game of Thrones really started. If he hadn't seen that and Jaime didn't push him off of the tower, perhaps everything would have been very different. I believe this is how the end is meant to be, even in the books as well, when they are finished. Let's see. So nevertheless, apart from the ending and some minor gripes about the last few seasons, I have really enjoyed the series. There are a lot of things to learn from this show, like storytelling, character development, dialogue writing, direction, cinematography, production design and all. So as a filmmaker, you should definitely study the series. I'll try to make more videos on analyzing the series or a particular episode in detail. So make sure to subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell icon to stay notified of my new uploads. I would also like to know your thoughts regarding the ending of the series. So definitely let me know by leaving your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Now your watch has ended.